Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Welcome to today's episode of Wisdom Talk Radio. So let me ask you, what does success mean to you? And does it include the way in which you live your life? And if you see yourself as part of the human family, then how is your success both a part of that and a reflection of that? Having been on both sides of the spiritual student and teacher relationship, I'm looking forward to welcoming a spiritual master to Wisdom Talk Radio to share himself. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the Inner Guidance Mastery Blueprint. Head there to discover your quantum connection with your inner guidance by taking the Quantum Connection quiz. We are each designed to connect with Source differently, and knowing your own style is the first step in aligning with your inner guidance at a deeper level than you ever thought you could. And it's also really the secret to creating what you truly want in your life, or at least one of the secrets. So I'm very pleased today to welcome Jaye Gold. I can call you Justin, right?
Right.
Who's and the diverse themes of his 5 books that he has written speak not only to his eclectic perspective, but his eclectic history. From financial espionage, which is a great word, to world travel, to spiritual seeking, he has captured the essence of living a life of success while upholding standards of human compassion and generosity. He contends that a balanced life includes both an inner and outer aspect, and only with that balance can a person's aims be realized peacefully. The intentional community he established 40 years ago continues to support and nurture the process by which an individual can uncover their natural consciousness by learning to identify and remove the obstacles to a more harmonious existence. And Justin's latest book is called The Currency of Moments, Exploring Life's Anomalies Through Images and Ideas. And I know this is going to be backwards, but nevertheless, here it is. It's a beautiful book, Justin, really beautiful. Both, on every level of pictures of the messages, of the energy of it. So welcome, Justin, to Wisdom Talk Radio.
Good to be here.
So can I ask you to begin the subtitle of this book is Exploring Life's Anomalies Through Images and Ideas. What do you mean by anomalies?
Well, it's generally thought that a spiritual seeker needs spiritual circumstances to learn from. But what I was taught and what I've learned and what I've verified is that all the circumstances in life are potential teaching instruments, and a message, an experience or a circumstance doesn't necessarily have to be spiritual for a person to learn a spiritual lesson. Mm-hmm. So an anomaly in this case would be something that would be looked on as ordinary, something that could be looked on as mundane, banal, mm-hmm. And beneath the surface, a person could extract something really fine from it. So the first book I wrote was a book about a poker player, and the word anomaly was used in the subtitle of that book as well, because the idea of gambling and poker playing is rarely seen as a medium for telling a spiritual story. But I did use it for that, and part of the value I have for life is that it is an extraordinary school if taken as it is. Mm-hmm. We don't have to do too much to manipulate it for us to be learners from it.
We have to be willing.
Yes, we do
willing
have
to
to be
learn.
willing. Mhm.
Yeah. I'm struck by that. I'm going to have to go find that book because my father was a poker player and actually died at a poker table when I was
Oh
very
my goodness.
so when you said that, it's just like, what are the odds of somebody on this show coming in and speaking to that? Yeah. So if you see another person buying that book, it's me.
Okay.
So there was something else I wanted to ask about because it's something that everybody's going through such great change right now. And while that's really always the case, I think the shift of moving into this new year always feels like when that happens, it always feels like a time when people are paying attention to great change. And in one of your pictures and quotes, you speak to stopping in the midst of change to open the door to new possibilities. And how does that happen?
Well, you're mentioning stopping. Stopping is one of the most difficult things to do because momentum, we know in science, an object in motion remains in motion, and we are definitely in motion. We're either in motion keeping busy, or we're in motion talking to ourselves, or we're in motion physically going from place to place. And stopping is very challenging. I remember one time many years ago, this word stopping reminds me of driving across Colorado and trying to get from, I guess it's from Kansas to Utah or whatever is on either Kansas to Nevada, I guess it is. Is that correct? Kansas to
Um,
Nevada. Okay, I won't
yeah, it
challenge
depends
you.
on. I'm in Colorado, so.
Okay. So I was driving across and 65 miles an hour, and I have a somewhat of a fascination for birds of prey, of hawks and eagles. They're beautiful to look at. And I saw one on the side of the road uh, in a different posture than one would ordinarily see an eagle on the side of the road. And I just kept driving because I had been driving. And I went about another mile and I said, what am I doing?
Mhm.
If I was walking or on a bicycle or on a motorcycle or any other form of conveyance, I would stop to look. But I didn't stop to look because it's hard to slow down, it's hard to stop. And it's something that we do have to understand about ourselves, that we have adopted a severe limitation of speed and momentum. And in order to really appreciate something in the moment, at least slowing down has to happen. And even that's a challenge.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Do you have a way of teaching people how to slow down? How
I
to?
do.
Can you speak to that a little?
No, it's not. It's not that It's not that I sell it. I don't sell anything.
No, no.
I don't do anything for money, really. I have money taken care of, so I don't have to do that.
Mhm.
But there are some things that I just haven't figured out how to do over media. I have become a lot more relaxed over it because this is something that I would not have done 20 years ago, even
Mhm.
been interviewed.
Yeah.
But my students have ganged up on me and and gotten me to record more
Mhm.
of what I say, write more, take more photos on the
Mhm.
things we've done. And I've been glad about it because like this last book was a product of taking photos.
Mhm.
So I have loosened up about that, but there's some things I just have never figured out how to put out in that way. So I can't.
Yeah, no, I understand that. As a person who works with energy in the service of consciousness, um, I've had to learn a lot about that and be willing to, try things out and see, oh, I really can do this. I didn't think that I could do this like online, whatever the this is. And so thank you for that. I
Uh-huh.
appreciate that.
Right. There are things that definitely I could convey.
Mhm.
If somebody asked for advice, relationship advice or financial advice or something like that, I might have something to say about it. But in terms of teaching meditation or teaching anything that really goes beneath the surface of things, I don't know how to utilize media in relation to that.
So you talk about success, or at least I haven't read what you've written other places about success, but your questions that you sent to me going into this were around success and about how does success lead to more success, and how do we follow success? So can you start to just let's open that conversation, and what is it that you have learned, and what is it that you are seeing now about the nature of success?
Well, I imagine that sometime success was more modest. Now success, because of what we've been exposed to, is grandiose. In other words, a millionaire now is no longer a financial success. A billionaire is a financial success in terms of what we read in the news and what we see in the media. And so it's a monumental challenge to feel successful, because success has also been linked to winning. And and winning is a diabolical two-edged sword. You know, in baseball, a really competent, talented baseball player uh, gets a hit 1/3 of the time. The other 2/3 of the time, that person either strikes out or fouls out or or hits a ball that gets caught, doesn't get a hit. Now, in business, being successful 1/3 of the time is not considered successful. It's considered how, let's talk about your failures. So we have to really reassess the the quantification of winning and the value of winning, because life is filled with faux pas, of mistakes. There's no, even a person who might be an enlightened human being can make a mistake, can see that mistake as he or she has made it, but can make a mistake. So the idea of winning is is really detrimental to success, because it also challenges our experimental attitude. Because how careful do you have to be? How careful does a politician have to be to always be right, knowing that anytime they're wrong, that incorrectness will be their reputation, and that's unrealistic. So I try to separate the idea of success from the idea of winning, and I explore the idea of winning and how uh, uh, unattainable that winning is, because there will be some wins and there will be some losses. If you're an investor in the stock market, and or certainly in cryptocurrency, and you expect all your investments to be wins, you're going to feel really bad. If you're a poker player like your father was, and you expect to win and win and win, and you don't feel as good, you feel worse for your losing than you feel good for your winning. That's a terrible formula for happiness.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of exploring that in that question of success, and but the basis is one has to look at how one feels when it doesn't go well, and to study how to change that.
It
Because
also
sometimes it
goes,
will not go well.
yes, and it also goes to innovation, and how can we have the freedom to innovate, to create, even if we're afraid of not winning, if we're afraid of making a mistake, of being seen as making a mistake, whatever that might mean. So you speak, I know, speak to the process, shall we say? I don't know if that's even quite the right word, about coming up with an idea that's more original than copied from something else. How do you do that?
Well, I think to do that, one has to go back and get to know oneself, because innovation and originality are definitely different. There's
Mhm.
been really very little originality, and originality is almost a magical manifestation. Innovation is much more, like the movie of the guy who invented the windshield wipers that
Mhm.
that go, they're variable
Intermittent.
speed, yeah, intermittent windshield wipers. He started with a windshield wiper. And even the guy who invented the original windshield wiper started with some idea of wiping the window. So
Mhm.
originality, like uh, the poetry of Leonard Cohen or Bob Dylan, some of it is so unique that one can say that that is original. But
Mhm.
so much of music and so much of songs and so much of poetry and songs is a takeoff on something else. And not that that can't be beautiful,
Mhm.
but to actually expect originality, originality is a phenomenon that rarely happens, and it happens as a product of one really getting to know oneself.
Mhm.
So a person knows when they're taking something from somebody else, or taking something from something that's happened before and further developing it, which,
Mhm.
as I say, can certainly be beautiful. But even innovation of something other than the most surface kind takes knowing oneself. I think
Mhm.
knowing oneself and seeing things as they are, whether they're external or internal, seeing them as they are, actually being able to call them what they are, like writing a book. There's a certain format in a book.
Mhm.
There's a certain size. Do you want this book to be 5.5, 8.5, or 9 by 11? That's copied and that's fine, because
Mhm.
one doesn't have to make a Jackson Pollock painting,
Mhm.
to create art. One can be a phenomenal drawer and
Mhm.
draw, be on the street corner and draw pictures of faces and still make
Mhm.
phenomenal art. So there's really a lot of self-knowledge and seeing things as they are that, in my opinion, is a prerequisite that rarely happens to
Mhm.
find innovation and certainly to originality.
Yeah. I love that distinction between innovation and creativity or originality. Most of what I see people talking about with innovation is an iterative process. Oh, we've got this, and we're going to maybe tweak that, and we're going to see how this works over here, and then we're going to adapt it to this new situation. And while that's a creative process, it is different than that emergence of something brand new. Um, it, and so you said a couple of times, seeing things as they are, and what I'm thinking about is seeing things as perhaps they might be, or as they might become. Seeing the potential, seeing the possibility, and that strikes me as an aspect of the creative process.
Yes, I totally agree. I call them four visions. I use that word, four visions,
Mhm.
seeing a possibility, whether it's something that you read about or you hear about or you experience in some special circumstances, whether it be drugs or nature or childbirth, but you see a possibility, or you have just a thought in your head or a dream
Mhm.
and of something that's possible, but that's not an actuality in your life,
Mhm.
but you see it as something, or you see somebody else's accomplishment. Recently, I watched a movie about a lady who grew up under really rough circumstances and was a homeless child and ended
Mhm.
up going to a foreign country, a third world country, and taking care of children and really going for it and taking care of children. And one could watch that movie and see there's really a lot to be done for people who are less fortunate.
Mhm.
But otherwise, in an affluent culture, one can curtain themselves off somewhat from that, and seeing that would be a forevision of maybe I should do that, maybe I should get involved in that,
Mm.
or anything one sees to get what you're describing as seeing a possibility that now doesn't exist. And
Mhm.
I fully recognize that that's part of the process, seeing how things are now and seeing how things could be.
Yeah. It's one of the most exciting things really in the world to me, is to be with people in that process of helping them make a thing that has not yet existed become real, become manifest in the world. And particularly when that's something that is designed to, or has the potential to address a need. And you have done a lot in the world, in the social fabric of the world. What has moved you to do that? What's drawn you into that sphere?
Well, I was born into this world, and I was born into the phase that I see as accomplishment. I see life in that way, that it's organized not from outside, but it's organized by human nature, essential human nature, that at the beginning we go out and explore. And that's as we should go out and explore. And we should be bold, and we should take chances. And and we should learn how to do the different things that people do, include faking it. We should learn how to do that. We should learn how to be okay in different circumstances. We should
Mhm.
learn how to be experimental and try things, and not be reticent and withholding. And that phase should take place until that becomes repetitious. And then maybe another phase could enter. But I think that phase, which can last some time,
Mhm.
because well, it can also last too long, because a person continues to try to find something new
Mhm.
externally, and doesn't recognize that there's another phase of internal exploration. But
Mhm.
in relation to your question, I was born in New York City. I was born in a relatively unusual uh, family circumstance, and then I hmm, uh, left it fairly at a fairly young age, and went out and tried different things, and got good at different things, and then became somewhat tired of the repetition of that, because my going out and exploring was pretty bold. Uh, and but in doing that, I recognized in the internal quest that life is still the teacher, and being
Mhm.
able to know how it is to deal with children and animals and money and sex and and different languages and all these things. They're given to us as part of life, for
Mhm.
us to see both the surface of things and beneath the surface of things. And I value that. And part of my teaching is to make sure that people are not are not reticent to live the external life.
Ah, would it be true to say not willing or to live the external life in the service of the internal exploration?
I'd say for starting, no.
Okay.
I'd say I'd say to begin the first phase of life, however many years that takes you, shouldn't take more than 30, but it could take even 40.
Mhm.
But in that time, um, uh, one has a license to be selfish. Not selfish in a way to harm other people,
Mhm. Mhm.
but what do I need to see? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
What do I need to make happen? And and not really be encumbered by the glorification of what could happen after that.
Mhm.
This
Mhm.
might, to some degree, disagree with the basic format of people pretending they're good and pretending they're caring and pretending in that first phase. I think
Mhm.
that the programming that has led to that pretending is not helpful. Because I see that first phase as a phase of acquisition. And I think that that's okay. And I think that also the phase of learning how to express exactly what's going on with you and not pretending like everything that everyone does goes well with you. It's a time to recognize, to be embarrassed and be okay being embarrassed, and to be acquisitive and to be okay being acquisitive. But as I say, I see this as a phase. I see that if that phase continues past the time that it should really continue, I see that as not only personally self-destructive, but culturally and societally self-destructive. So we see some, what you might call grown-ups that are still so self-serving that it just looks distasteful.
Yeah. And it really does the world a disservice, as you say, because
Absolutely.
we can take all of that part of life where we are learning, where we are exploring, where we get to move into new situations and be informed by them. And instead of taking that into its natural next phase, we stay stuck in that as if that's the only thing there is, and being unwilling to make the inner journey. Yeah. So what's the secret, if there is one, to separating ourselves from situations that are not productive for us?
Well, I don't know if they're secrets. They might be challenging to undertake, but the secret of losing weight is to eat less and get more exercise. But it's not a secret.
Right.
You understand? There are, I think, I don't think really I am the purveyor of secrets. I am purveyor of encouragement, of people knowing probably what they secretly or within themselves know is a good thing to do, so as to uncover those things. And there are so many things that are self-destructive that people do that they allow themselves to be unaware of, by avoiding. I'm thinking of one. I don't know if this would apply in this case, and I don't even really know how it's going to come out, but let me try.
Okay, sure.
I was at a party some years ago, a get-together some years ago, of people that were, quote, spiritual seekers. And it was a grouping, a loose form grouping that would look somewhat like a cocktail party, where groups of people were standing around talking to each other. And I was standing with a few people, and we were talking about some people that we've known, and people mentioned different names. And somebody came up into our circle, and the name Claudio Naranjo, I don't know if you're familiar with that name, came up. And this person said, "Oh, I've read one of her books." And Claudio Naranjo is a man.
Right.
So somebody, I don't try to embarrass people who are looking to be, looking for that experiment.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say anything. But one of the people in our circle said, "Oh, I think they may have even said, I met Claudio Naranjo. I met her." And
so even worse.
Worse, yes, worse. And somebody in the circle said, Claudio Naranjo is a man, because he was still alive at that time. And so this person was severely embarrassed. And the way they handled their embarrassment was, "Oh, I got to go now." And they went away. And for the rest of the party, they made sure that they didn't circulate around any one of those people. But embarrassment is part of life. We have self-images. We want to maintain them. We do incredible amounts of effort into maintaining them, our appearance, our speech, our everything, everything. It's a big thing. So sometimes it's not going to quite work out. and we're going to be embarrassed, and that's part of it. And we can see it and we can recognize something of our self-image and how important it was to us, and we can even laugh a little bit at ourselves and how, you know, you slip and fall, and the first thing you want to do is not make sure you're okay, but make sure nobody saw you.
Right,
You
right.
know, I call them little deaths, and
Yes.
and they are in a way little deaths, sometimes very little deaths, but they're like that, like everything is at risk and this at this
Yeah.
moment. So I see that that in relation to what we're talking about, secrets, it's not a secret that we get embarrassed, but it is a secret that we try to go on to the next thing really quickly and get rid of it. When we know in medicine, even in enlightened medicine or in homeopathic medicine, that pain is an indicator of something, an indicator of something that's not as it should be,
Yeah.
you know. Uh, and emotional pain is also an indication of something that's not as it should be. And embarrassment is an emotional pain. It tells us something about ourselves. Why get rid of it? Why have it be so secretive? Because it's something that can teach us. So that's what I think about what the secrets are. The secrets are the things we already know that we try to bury and get rid of, that really could be incredible teaching
Yeah.
tools for us.
To allow us to feel in the moment and not try and run away from that, because it's like running away from something about yourself, and an awareness that has the potential for opening a door.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you I'm very curious. There's a question that you gave me. I don't usually even say that, but I'm so interested in what you will say about this, and that is about how much does our chronological age affect our goals and our decisions?
Uh-huh. An important thing to recognize, and it is chronological, but it's also physiological. So some people are children for a long time. And sometimes some people are adults for too long a time.
Yeah.
You're starting too long. I don't mean aging too long.
Yeah.
And some people like to pretend they're children for too long. Now, I at one time was uh, enthusiastic about climbing at altitudes, so, you know, mountains and like that. And I knew about the different technology of mountain climbing and chocks and pitons and jumars and things like that and ropes. And I knew about that. And I liked that. There was something I liked about that. But I can't do that anymore. I can't be at high altitudes because of chronological age. And I could pretend and I could really even injure myself by doing that. Now, most things I can do, but some things I can't do. So I have to be realistic. Some people will not accept that transition. Now, there are things that I can do now. I can sit still, which I clearly could not do as a young man.
Going
Could
back to
not.
that first where we started from about stillness.
Yes, exactly. Could not do, could not entertain even doing, but I can do now, and that's a tremendous gift. But it's a manifestation of chronology in terms of actual physical aging. Now there are other, as I say, phases in life. The way I see it, uh, uh, that life is actually presented to us, whether we know it or not, and whether we like it or not from politics and not from sociology, but from the design that was created by something far greater than anything that I could do or any human could do, is a parabolic curve, or even what are those things you throw and come, a boomerang.
Frisbee. Oh, boomerang.
A boomerang, yes. And there's a going out phase. There's a going out where you explore. And then there's a phase when going out starts to become repetitious. As I say, maybe depending on how boldly you've lived life, when it gets repetitious, and that repetition brings us to a point where we start to question.
Mhm.
We question, what am I doing? What am I doing? Not what am I doing? How can I do more in terms of going out? But what is this going out? I've been married 3 times. Okay. Is a fourth time really going to be the key? I've started 3 businesses. I've been to 50 different countries. Is one more country? We start to question. I consider that the part of the boomerang that starts to slow
Mhm.
down and come around. And then there's the coming home, which is the one we learn the least about in our culture. You know, we learn the most about the going out, and
Mhm.
we learn a little less, but plenty about what to do if you start to question. But we don't really learn much about the coming home. So I see life coming in phases, not
Mhm.
only physically, but as it is in phases. And if we are balanced and functioning within those phases, there'll be messages for us, there'll be help for us,
Mhm.
there'll be momentum for us, even. But if we try to go against those phases,
Yeah, yeah, I'm acutely aware of that in the last couple of years, having lost, or well, loss isn't even the right word, but having had a couple of very, very close friends who have moved on in life. Um, and and that transition has caused me to reflect on what is that and how is that, and to have watched them move through that boomerang, that other side of the boomerang, coming back home,
uh,
and and reflecting on, things that they have said, and then seeing how, oh, I can imagine that now, of mm, yeah, I can understand why you're saying you don't want to travel anymore, or you don't have that draw to it, or that there's other things that start calling forth to be explored, to be reckoned with or realized.
mhm. Yes, I have to contradict myself, or the concept of what one might get from what I do myself. I still am an ardent traveler. I'm an ardent
Me too.
risk taker. I'm
Mhm.
an ardent, I enthusiastically look for anything that's really different that I perhaps have not crossed paths with.
Mm.
And what I'm not an ardent pursuer of is repetition. I'm okay for repetition to some degree,
Huh.
and that's my life might have taken a different path had I had more of the personal style of repetition, because I started playing the violin when I was very young, maybe 4 years old, and I was a bit of a prodigy by the time I was 10, but by the time I was 14 and Elvis came around, the repetition of practicing, even the word practicing,
Right.
grated on me. So,
Mhm.
and that's still very much the case for me, that repetition, un, non-productive repetition, is not attractive to me. Although I do see that areas in which repetition can be productive, and I'm definitely in favor of that because I teach tools,
Mhm.
and using a tool requires repetition. So I am in
Mhm.
favor of
Mhm.
productive repetition, but not non-productive repetition.
It's a good distinction to make.
Uh-huh.
I have friends that want to eat the same thing at the same restaurant all the time, and I'm always looking for, well, what's new? What could be created here? I don't even like to cook the same thing, mm, usually more than once,
Hmm.
maybe twice. But it's that, ooh, what else is possible kind of exploration.
Hmm.
So is out of the box still in the box?
Well, I think it's rare that out of the box is anything other but in the box. But as I said earlier, it's actual creativity is rare and should be recognized as rare, and should be recognized with reverence and recognized with respect and really somewhat of awe, and
Mhm.
to be able to distinguish the difference of what I said between innovation or tweaking, or
Mhm.
even more than tweaking, and originality, because originality comes very rare. And I'm saying this and I'm repeating myself because I want to bring it across to whoever's listening to that if you do cross paths with something that's really different,
Mhm.
now bands, when a band sets up, they set up like the Beatles set up
Mm.
60 years ago with the
Mhm.
bass player or the guitar player and like that. Their music might be completely different, but there is an amount of innovation, and that music can be extraordinary.
Mhm.
But someone at some point decided something.
Mhm.
Maybe the Grateful Dead decided it was okay to do a performance where you just kept playing for
Mhm.
hours, and it was up to people to listen or not. That
Mhm.
had not happened before. But uh, I think there's so much in the box that can be beautiful, but out of the box is just different.
And the word that comes up as I'm listening to you is, for me, is courage. And on two sides. The courage, of course, to, I would say it this way, to follow that inner voice, to bring forth that creative expression. But also that takes a kind of courage to recognize it, to not dismiss it, to not want to separate yourself from it, and to, have the courage to look at it and realize that you're in the presence of something that is original.
Yeah, congratulations on that. I think that realization is out of the box.
Hmm. So there was something that is interesting to me when I hear people speak a lot about, oh, I understand that, I've got that, don't need to worry about that. Kind of like the versions of I've got that covered. How does that, how does that limit our openness to what's new and what's possible?
Yeah, good question. Uh, I I see that uh, our feeling of comfort is so pervasive that in the moment that we manifest self-destructively to maintain that comfort. What is the word that you used in that question? What is that?
Um, that I've got you covered.
Yeah, covered. Yeah, that expression, I got you covered.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have that covered. Yeah, the idea of I have that covered means that the discomfort of knowing that something I haven't experienced, the discomfort of knowing that there's something that I don't know,
Yeah.
is something that I want to cover up. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It could even happen in this watching this interview.
Mhm.
You know, uh, it could happen in reading a book. Yeah, I've heard that before. I've read that
Mhm.
before. I know about that.
Yeah.
And sometimes the answer is yes, you do. But sometimes the answer is no, you don't.
Mhm.
And if you're not free to choose that option, there's you're limiting yourself to something. If you're not really paying attention and being open to the fact that
Mhm.
something could be presented to you that has never been presented to you before.
Mhm.
Now, without I shouldn't say without. I shouldn't preface this. I know things that other people don't know.
Mhm.
That's clear to me. That isn't like a car mechanic could say that about their
Mhm.
skill. I know things other people don't know. I know that I can present them in ways that haven't been presented before. But
Mhm.
I have done that, and people can say to me, yeah, I've heard that before. I know that before. And I
Mhm.
know that they haven't. So I try to present it in a different way because my purpose is for them to get it, not for me to
Right.
put it out,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So I recognize the limiting element of of having to having to respond with that need for comfort to say,
Mhm.
I'd be uncomfortable to think that you know something I don't know. I'd be uncomfortable to think that you've been to a place I haven't been, whether it's in consciousness or in geography. And it inhibits our ability to be open and to listen.
I spent so much of my early years feeling like I had to be on top of things, feeling like I had to know, and that both pissed people off and absolutely limited me in what I could discover. And now I'm at a place in life. It's so interesting to me. There's a lot of change going on within my own life right now, and what I keep feeling and what I keep saying is, I don't know. I don't know anything. And that's it's really where I am, is because everything feels so new, so different, so I can't predict. And I know I can always go inside and ask what I need to do or what I need to understand about this moment or anything. And what my overarching experience is right now is that one of, oh my goodness, let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that the ability to be able to sit with that is a remarkable ability and a testament to someone's uh, struggles, accomplishment, life experiences, whatever. Because there, at some point, some years ago, somebody wrote a book, or at least the book was called and talked about something that they called spiritual materialism. I think spiritual materialism is a very important thing to understand, because at one point, spiritual quest was a very a tolerated subject. It was a big subject. If you looked at the bulletin boards in universities, there were a lot of entries, a lot of things stuck to the bulletin boards. Go to this meeting, that meeting. Spirituality was very, let's say, popular. And materialism was much less popular to those people. Now, that has changed, and spirituality has become much less important, and materialism has become much more important. So but the synthesis of those two things has also changed, in that the materialism part of spirituality at one time was very small. The materialism part of spirituality now is very large. So spiritual materialism, or what I might call control, the idea of attaining control through connection with something that's so great it manifests us, and we have no business ever conceiving our control of it. But in our language, in our development of ideas, we try to control that which should not be controlled, and we avoid lessons, whether it's life lessons or bigger lessons, that put us in a position of being in less control, being standing under. We avoid those. But in order to really enter the finer world of of the spirit, one must be receptive to being out of control. And where does that learn? It certainly shouldn't be learned in what I'm calling this first phase. It shouldn't be learned there, because that's a phase in which we should learn how to get control. To feel okay to get control, but then slowly recognize that control isn't always appropriate. Now, it's appropriate for your investments. One wants to control one's finances. Okay. One wants to control what one eats and, control things of the body, but things of the spirit, to go into the deepest form of meditation, we're trying to make reconnect with something that gave us life. How can we possibly entertain control in that regard? And so this idea of exploring our spiritual materialism, exploring our new age concepts that allow and encourage spiritual materialism, exploring that and seeing where it fits and where it doesn't fit, I consider really important.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's yeah. I I don't speak to, or I don't think about spiritual materialism, but the way that you just spoke to that and described that, and spoke to that reality of we always are stepping into or being thrust into the void, that empty space. And if we don't know, if we're not comfortable in hanging out there, and we just try and control it, try and fill it, try and give it an explanation or a name, we miss out on that, on what that growth in that moment is. Yeah. Justin, would you, I mean, I feel like we could go on, and what you just opened up, I'd love to go. That's almost like a starting place for a whole other conversation. And I recognize our time is coming to a close. So would you tell people how they can find out more about what you're up to in the world, how they can get your books, all of that?
Okay, well, all my books are available on Amazon.
Okay.
My name is Justin, but I don't use the name Justin because Justin Gold is the name of the peanut butter baron, and and so I decided that I would go by Jaye Gold because so as not to be confused with the peanut butter baron.
Oh my goodness.
Who,
I don't know who that is. So,
well, he's a brilliant businessman who created an empire out of making peanut butter,
okay.
and his name is Justin Gold. So, so if you go under Amazon under Jaye Gold, you can you can get any of my books. My website is justingold.net. Is that correct? Is that correct? Justingold.net, and you
Mhm.
can hear all about me. And if you can't afford books, which are really pretty low priced anyway, then let me know. I don't do any of it for money. So
Mhm.
if you can't afford it and you want to get one of my books, let me know and email through the website and we'll send you one or two or whatever you want.
Mhm.
And also another website that might be interesting is our social work website, which I consider a big part of what we do because
Mhm.
let me say that in the esoteric world, you never can be positive. You never can be positive. You can be pretty sure, even I can be pretty sure, and sometimes I'm pretty sure, but to say positive, it
Mhm.
doesn't exist there.
Yeah.
But one thing is positive. If you see a kid who's starving and you give him food, that's positively good.
Mhm.
So we have a social work program. We've gone around the world to do disaster relief. We're going actually next week to Mexico to give some assistance to people who are on that trail from South America to the U.S. border to
Mhm.
hopefully get in, and whether they get in or not, or whether it's good for them or not. But I know
Mhm.
that there's a lot of hardship going
Mhm.
on there.
Mhm.
So we're going on down there and spending a month and trying to lend some assistance there.
Wonderful.
So our website that shows all our programs over the years is ccns-inc.org. ccns-inc.org.
Right.
That's our CCNS is our nonprofit organization. So we do that too.
Mhm. I
Uh,
was very intrigued by that. I went to take a look at that, and you're doing some remarkable and simple sometimes things,
yeah.
and in their simplicity, they are remarkable. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Thank you for this time. I have so appreciated being with you, having a conversation, and feeling, I always have the opportunity to discover something new. And when I do, as I have today, I have deep appreciation.
Been great for me too.
Thank you.
And I never say what I don't think.
Good. And I want to thank our audience for being with us today here at Wisdom Talk Radio. Join us here regularly for more inspiration, discovery, and illumination. Remember, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. We are now also on YouTube, which is very exciting to me. And if you've enjoyed listening today, please leave us a review because that helps more people to access the wisdom and to transform the world. And for more about deepening your connection with your own inner guidance, take the Quantum Connection quiz now. See you next time.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.